So many of you may be familiar with the classic children's book, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. You've either read it to your children or nieces and nephews. Perhaps it was a favorite of yours when you were a child. The concept of the book is that if you give a mouse a cookie, it will want a glass of milk, and then a straw to drink the milk, and then a napkin to wipe his face, mirror to make sure he doesn't have a milk mustache, and so on and so on. With the concept building on each time the mouse gets something, it wants something more. Until at the end, well, the mouse wants another cookie. So today's talk is titled, If You Give a Lawyer Some Data, and we will explore what happens when your legal department starts to assess its data. So there's a philosophical concept associated with the Give a Mouse a Cookie book called determinism, which is the idea that the facts of the past, in conjunction with the laws of nature, entail every truth about the future. In other words, we know what the mouse is going to ask for next. So what does this have to do with the law and efficiency in your legal department? Well, in this context, we're looking to analytics and how metrics and reporting on the facts of the past can help us make better future decisions, not necessarily determine them. In other words, turn the philosophical concept on its head. Analytics, by definition, are used to help discover and communicate meaningful patterns in data. It also entails applying data patterns toward effective decision-making, actionable business intelligence. But how do we gain this insight, especially in the law? So analytics in the business of law is obviously different from the analytics we apply to our data sets in litigation, investigations, mergers. We aren't looking for predictive coding or conceptual analysis within the data itself. Quite the opposite, we're looking at trends in the data from a much higher level. So who can answer the question? And Oliver, you even relayed this as well. What is my actual cost per document produced, or another question like that? And if you can't, what if you could? What does this data point do for anyone? I'd argue that alone it does nothing other than give you a reference point. But if that data is measured over time, over cases, over counsel, case types, activities, data types, we start to gain actionable intelligence. Now you've given me a cookie, and now I want a glass of milk. As Jeffrey mentioned yesterday, trends he analyzed helped highlight the difference between price and cost. So in order to gain this type of insight using analytics, we need a few key items. And these items are just some of the things that we analyzed here at Compliance when we developed our dashboarding tools for our clients as part of our overall e-discovery platform. It's important to keep in mind that we've spent a large part of the last 2 days talking about metrics and analytics, but not everyone knows how to get there or where to start. So here goes. So first is the understanding of what data trends are important to you and what do you want to glean from that data? In other words, what do you want to know? Second, as Amy pointed out yesterday, and it's probably the most important aspect of this, is access to a data set. And that data set has to be significant, like a single repository of all of your data, or a way to bring divergent data sets together into a readable format. This is important because it highlights the need to have data in one place, or at least where the data can be accessed and synthesized. So you have to ask yourselves, where's your data? Third is an analytics tool, something like Tableau or Microsoft's Power BI, that can read the data, whether in one table or multiple, and build connections between data points, even apply artificial intelligence in some instances. So what analytics tool are you going to use? Fourth is the ability to have data flags or set data points that are important for analysis. Do you want to analyze fees, costs, and invoices, case types, outside counsel names, regions, custodians, services? What data do you want to analyze? And finally, our reporting and dashboards. This is a way of visualizing all of those data points that have been brought together so that trends can be seen and highlighted as well as tracked over time so the information becomes useful. As Jennifer said yesterday, how do I see what I've learned? Mm-hmm. So once this infrastructure is in place and can run with automations on your data over time, you'll start to see trends. And as those trends begin to emerge, you'll want to have more data markers, because you'll want to learn more. So let's play this out. Let's say that at the beginning of any legal matter or case, you know the following: the case type, the location of where the case originated, data sources, custodian names, the amount of data, location of data, number of documents collected from each custodian in the total, outside counsel name and location, and budget. And then as the case proceeds, we track things like costs for technology, counsel fees, service provider fees, tasks, the life cycle of data, such as filtering, review, use of analytics, review set size, production set size. And these are just a sampling of data points. But at the end of the case, what are some of the things we could learn? Well, for one, we know the actual cost of each document produced. And from a most simplistic perspective, taking the total cost-free discovery and related services and dividing it by the total number of documents actually produced. Again, one case, is it impactful? Probably not. But if you measure over time, what do you see? Are your costs going up or down? Is one counsel more expensive than the other? Is one case type less expensive than the other? But what else could we learn? Frankly, the possibilities are endless. And with all of that data, it just depends on how you crunch the numbers with that analytics or business intelligence tool. So for example, you could learn which outside counsel delivers the most efficient and cost-effective e-discovery process. What are the average costs per case type, such as employment, class action, commercial litigation, so I can budget when the next one hits? And how does the average cost per matter relate to case value or amount of controversy? What's my average filtering percentage so I can have more targeted collection efforts? Is there a region or office that is responsible for a disproportionate amount of matters, and why? How good is your team at budgeting for matters? And the list goes on. Because with information and tools, anything can be analyzed and trends will emerge over time. So what happens when you give a lawyer some data? Well, she's going to want a report. And when she gets a report, she's going to want to see budgets. And once she sees the budget, she's going to want to make some changes. And ultimately, that lawyer is going to want more data, and so on and so on. So thank you.